Uh, this year has been really interesting. I was just catching up briefly with a friend who I've only ever known through Facebook. Oops, sorry. And I've known her through Facebook, I've known her for over a decade. And in that time, she's left Facebook, like, I mean, completely deleted her old account and everything. Like, she's been on Facebook, off, on, off, on, off, every time creating a new account, coming back. I have also been friends with her on Instagram and through LinkedIn. So even though she's left Facebook, like, I've seen her posts on Instagram and on LinkedIn. So anyway, catching up with her, she just turned 50. I'm 55, and I'm proud of it. I have the scars to prove it. Um and I'm proud of all my scars. I've worked hard to stay alive and try to remain a decent human being through everything that I've been through, and I'm proud of that. Not gonna be ashamed of wrinkles and scars and things. Fuck that shit. I'm here. Not a lot of, I should say, there are a lot of people who could say that, but there are a lot of people who are not here anymore. They didn't make it to my age. And um so, it's something, but anyway, that's not my point. Um I think as a woman, it's a real achievement if you can love and accept yourself just the way you are. Um, you know, Scars, freckles, wrinkles, gray hair, and all, because our society is so effed up. Um, and quite frankly, I just have withdrawn from it as much as possible because they don't know what they're talking about. I'm not trying to be like a Kardashian. I don't care. Like, I look at those people and I'm like, are you real? Like, what kind of life are you living? Because to me, every time I see you, it's all about let's play dress up. And I'm sorry, but I left that behind when I was a kid. Like, I still like to dress up. I'm not saying. But if your whole life is about, you know, posing for the paparazzi and trying to be the coolest of the cool and on the cutting edge of whatever the new trend is, I just feel like, who are you inside? Are you alive? Are you alive? Are you a real person? Where's your heart? What is your heart about? Because if you're not connected to your own heart and soul, you don't know why the F you're on this planet, and you're just playing dress up every day and trying to keep up with it and look like you got all the... I can't with that. I just can't. So, and if that sounds judgy, whatever. This is my journal. This is my video journal. I can be whatever I am, because I'll tell you one thing, I'm not a coloring book page. I am not one dimensional. I got all kinds of dimensions, and yes, one of my darker dimensions is I can be judgy. I could cut you to the bone in a heartbeat. And that's not something I'm proud of, but it is something I accept about myself. And I try to keep that in check. But it's tethered to something that's very important, which is discernment. Now, there's a difference between being judgy and being discerning. But still. And also, I'm allowed to have an opinion. I'm allowed to have an opinion. There are people in the world who that's what they live for, fame and money and selling themselves day in and day out as the standard bearers for what everyone in society should try to mirror and achieve. It's a vacuum. There's no substance to that, in my opinion. So I just don't care, you know. Back many, many hundreds of years ago, the people who were trendy, setting the trends and whatever. And, isn't all that about somebody's insecurity and wanting to be like, I'm the trendsetter, so everybody's going to follow me. So what? So that you don't feel like the odd man out, or whatever. We all want love and acceptance. We all want to be seen and heard and appreciated, for our ideas to be listened to and to find their place, So it's cool, whatever. It's just that's not my bag. My chair keeps hitting Anyway, back to what I was saying. So I'm talking with this Facebook friend. She's a very sweet, tender-hearted person. And the reason she's come and gone from Facebook back and forth, back and forth, back and forth is because there were times it was just really overwhelming to her. She's a highly sensitive person, living a life, raising a family. And there were times she was just like, nope, I'm out of here, because it's too much drama, too much whatever. It's just overwhelming. I totally respect that. I handle it differently. That doesn't make me right. It doesn't make her way the best way either. It's just what it is, whatever works for you. So anyway, she was saying, I just turned 50 and I'm excited about this next decade of my life. And I was saying, I'm 55, and so far this decade has been about huge shifts in my perspective, letting go of old ways of thinking, and letting go of limiting beliefs that were really deeply embedded, such as, this year I was working on a life coaching course, and there were many things that he said in this course that deeply impacted me. And of course, now it's just flown out of my head. I was going to give an example, and I'm like, I don't know. What perspective shift has happened for me? I don't even know. Well, if I think of it, I will come back to it. But my point in recording this is that this year in particular has been a huge year for this life coaching course I was taking. I bought this course through udemy.com like 10 years ago. And life coaching has been very close to my heart for years, because ever since I worked with a life coach, because he was the first person who held space with me as I was feeling my feelings. And he showed me, like, in that one little moment, of maybe a 10-minute conversation, and it was on the phone. And, he just held this space with me, helping me to feel my feelings for the first time in a safe way. Like, I had always been avoiding them because I was terrified that I would be swept away by my emotions, because a lot of them felt very violent to me. Because I had a lot of not just anger, but rage from years of push it down, just take it on the chin. I had taken so much on the chin, I was ready to blow. Like, hello, have you met me? I'm a volcano. If you can't take the heat, back the fuck up, because here I come. And that was no joke. But initially, helping me just hold space for those emotions and to realize they're just sirens and teachers, okay? They just want you to acknowledge, this is happening to me. This is how I feel. I'm not a bad person because I feel this way. It makes sense. Anybody would feel this way if they had experienced this. Of course. And anger oftentimes is saying, wow, I'm really sad because this, and this. Wow, that really hurt. And for me, I've known for long before I ever really started on my own self-care, self-healing journey, the spirit drew to my attention that anger is your automatic self-defense. And I was like, oh, but I interpreted that as being a bad thing at the time, like, oh, it's a sin and I must crush it. And it's like, that's not what the spirit was speaking to me. It was trying to help me understand myself and what was going on. Anyway, this decade of my life has been filled with change, filled with challenge, and filled with growth, big growth. Like, yeah, I am so far in my thinking. I am so far removed from where I was 5 years ago. And again, I can't think of any one example at the moment, but what has happened this year have been huge perspective shifts. And along with the change in perspective has come this miraculous power to leap over obstacles that previously would like cause me to trip and do a lip skid, like almost every time, and struggle and struggle and struggle, trip, do lip skid, struggle to get up and get on. And I've overcome these barriers, these limiting beliefs. And yeah, I'm like, I need to go back through my journals and read about what specifically, because I'm drawing a blank at the moment. But just thinking about, I feel more authentic, more empowered, more self-confident now than ever before. Okay, one thing came to mind. I had an incident this year where I needed to stand up for myself. And in the workplace, because something was happening and it was just weird to me. And it felt like I couldn't quite put my finger on what was happening, because people are showing me one face. Oh, we like you and accept you. And these were upper management people, just a few of them. But they were saying, specifically what was happening was I was being introduced as Marcy who answers the phones. Well, I'm Marcy who does a lot of things. And to my knowledge, these other people also answer the phones at work. So, but when they're introduced as their title. Now, I am not a person who is title hungry. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody anymore. I am who I am. I show up, I do my job, I go above and beyond in my own way, like people do. Some people don't, but I do. When I interviewed for the job, I said, this is how I am. You show me the job you want me to do, give me a few to wrap my head around it and get a handle on how this works. And in time, which a lot of times I think usually takes me maybe 3 to 6 months, and then I'm like, oh, how can I make this easier? How can I make this smoother? And then I make changes. I don't wait for somebody to direct me to do that. I see it. If I need to ask permission, then I will. But talking about how I do my job, that comes down to me. It's not really something I have to ask for. So what I'm saying is, you hand me a lemon, you don't need to tell me make lemonade. I look at that thing, I'm like, I can zest this. I can do how many things with one lemon? Give me a minute. Let me figure out what I want to do, how I want to do, and boom, I will come back and give you more, was what I'm saying. You hand me something and I will hand it back to you in time, and it is more than you gave me in the first place, okay? I am a walking blessing machine, okay? Now, so that's why, I show up and I'm present. I'm there to do and to be a blessing, to be the support, to be not only do my job, but you know, to bring my Marciness to the table. Okay. So that's why I was like, it would be different if my coworker, the receptionist, or my coworker, the van driver, said, "This is Marcy. She answers phones here." Okay, that's different. But when your supervisors or the upper management are introducing you as, "This is so and so who answers the phones." What? So I just needed to clarify my position. And it really upset me because it triggered me, basically. It triggered me because I didn't feel seen, heard, and valued for what I bring to the table. And I talked to my brother about it because he knows things, and he's also a really excellent life coach. And that's not what he does as a profession either. He just is. So, I mean, he has coached people professionally. He has, but that's not currently his profession. Anyway, the point is, I talked with him and I was like, I just want to go in there and say, "Do you realize that I have this, and this? I have educated my kids. They are grown, responsible adults. Both have, college behind them. My son is a firefighter. All these things, and then not just that I've homeschooled my kids and raised my kids. I created the curriculum for my kids. I did all this homeschooling on a shoestring budget. So because of who I am, you hand me a potato, I'm going to hand you a meal. Okay? Don't even doubt it for a minute. Now, so I had this list of things and my brother said, "Marcy, I think the most important thing, that list that you just read off to me of all the things, not read off, but, rehearsed." He was like, "I think that's for you. I think that is for you to realize and acknowledge who you are and what you bring to the table. Like, you need to acknowledge that for yourself." And I knew it in my spirit before he said it, because I had been rehearsing this over and over for a couple of days. Because I was upset, and I'm a verbal processor. So I walk around, I'm washing dishes, I'm vacuuming, and I'm saying these. And do you realize that I'm vacuuming and I'm like, "Do you realize this? And do you know that? And do you know what lions I've hunted? It will be easy for me to track you down." So anyway, after talking to him, he helped me realize a specific weakness, being coming to the table in that situation, feeling highly emotional, and then showing all my cards. He didn't say it this way, but it's like, if you play poker, you got to keep a poker face. Okay. You can't lay your cards on the table till you're ready to go out. You keep those cards close to you and stay on point. Keep emotion out of it. So, it was the first time in my life that I handled something where I felt so belittled by this behavior. And I was so offended by it. But after talking with him, I understood that I am my safe place, and I know who I am and what I bring to the table. And I don't need to show all that I have, Um, yeah, like the playing cards. I don't need to show you, look what I've got a full house, honey, and you didn't even, that's not your business that I have a full house. So I asked to talk to my supervisor, and I went into that calm because I know who I am. That perspective shift happened. And I went in there confident. I know who I am because I know that whole list of all the things that I've accomplished in my life and the struggle and the hardship that I was in, the duress I was under. And I still managed to homeschool my children and, you know, and all the other things, yeah. So I went into that meeting and I just stuck to the point. I interviewed for this position, correct? And and this is what I do. And to my knowledge, you have been satisfied because that's the only thing I ever hear from you, that you appreciate me and that I'm doing good. And then you walk away. But then I've had you and 2 other upper management people introduce me as Marcy who answers the phones, and I don't understand what the difference is. And then, the person was like, well, you do. And I was like, so does this person. And I was like, and you probably answer the phone more than I do. And yet I would never introduce you as, well, I'm sorry you've had that experience. And yes, you're right. This is the position you hired for. This is the job you're doing. Yes. So what also happened after that, it was a good meeting because I made my point. I didn't go in there yelling about how I felt. Because going to your supervisor, it's not like going to your mom. I got hurt. My knee is skinned. I need a Band-Aid. It's not. You're an adult. You can do your Band-Aids for yourself. You can administer the medicine to yourself that you need, and you should do that. And then you walk in with your head held high, your self-respect intact. And because your self-respect is intact, you are speaking to that other person with respect to their position. And I walked away from that having clarity. Okay, now we're on the same page. You understand where I'm coming from? I'm not a crybaby. I'm not all about my title. But I would like to be treated with the common respect that everyone else in this office is treated with. Everyone else. I never heard anyone else referred to as, this is so-and-so who washes the dishes. That's so-and-so who ties their shoes. Everybody was introduced to everyone else as their job title except for me. And so, yes. And why that happened, I don't know. And I don't give a rip. The point was, I needed to stand up for myself and draw a line. This is not acceptable to me. I'm not making an unreasonable demand, and I'm not in here having an emotional fit. Okay? My emotions are not your business. They're mine. I got that part. But what I need is to understand what's going on and to just make my point that I would like to be treated with the common respect that seems to be shown to everyone else here in regard to how they're introduced to people, because it does matter. This is a first impression that's being made. So that settled it. And then also the next day, my supervisor was like, well, after that talk, I thought about things that you should be doing that I haven't asked you to do. So I'm going to give you this responsibility, that responsibility, that. And I was happy to take that on because I had been waiting because of what I said in the interview. You hand me this little thing, whatever it is, I'm going to take it, figure it out, and then I'm going to give you back something bigger and better when I'm done. So, or in time, and not necessarily when I'm done, but in time. And that's something I learned about myself in my previous position, and in a previous job. It's just and not only in the job, it's how I am in my life. Um, and other people have noticed and remarked, wow, you took this dingy little space that nobody wanted to hang out in and you turned it into the coziest room in the house. And we all love to be there. I have that kind of magic power. So I guess this video is to remind me that I have magic power. Yay. But also just talking about how that was a huge thing for me to handle a situation where I felt, and here's the thing, it triggered me because it triggered, and I was like, when I got to that point where I was like, we need to have a talk. That's how I felt about and I was like, I need to give myself time to process what's going on and why I'm so angry. Like, I'm rage level angry. And I was like, yeah, I can't bring this to the workplace. That's a big no. That's a big no. So what's going on with me? Well, what was triggering was I had spent 23 years married to a narcissist, and that is mental and emotional abuse. It's very cunning verbal abuse, and it's basically torture. It is torture. It's psychological torture. That because I was codependent, and for a while it was because I was a Christian, that was part of it. I don't believe in divorce and da da da. But also there was a lot of fear. I don't think I can make it. I don't think I can raise 2 kids on my own. I don't. And also wrapped up in there were a million reasons I stayed. Sometimes he was good to me. Sometimes I was like, and I was so desperate and hungry for that love. And I believed there was a good guy in there. No, that was just the fake. That was the fake out. That was the con to keep me where he wanted me, to milk me for all I was worth, But anyway, so I have a hell of a load of triggers. But that's a big one, being disrespected. Because it makes me feel like I'm not seen, I'm not heard, I'm not valued. And, in my marriage, I had one of the conversations I had with my ex one time was, I said, I feel like you don't know me at all. And it just really hurts. And he's like, well, isn't it enough that I know you to the degree that I want to? And I was just stunned. And I was like, I didn't even say anything. Because part of being involved with a narcissist is you think you're talking to a normal person and you're going to work things out. They spin this big cloud of confusion. I forget what they call that. What is that called? They gaslight you. They go off topic. They do all kinds of, little tricks. They got all kinds of little tricks to control and manipulate the conversation and leave you with your head spinning and in a fog. You don't even know what happened, and you feel like shit, and they act like, okay, good. We've So anyway, that's why when this thing happened at work, it triggered that wound, that it poked at that wound in me. Which I have healed bit by bit along the way, obviously, because I handled this situation far different than I ever handled that kind of thing before, ever. And having done so taught me a very valuable lesson about how to deal with stuff like that in the future, no matter who does whatever. I know that I am able to stand in my self-confidence and in my self-love and in my self-respect and look at them and say, what do you mean by that? Or to say, are you okay? Like, what's going on with you? There are a number of ways I can handle it, all while maintaining my self-respect, my self-control, my self-love, and my self-confidence. Because I know who I am. I know what I've been through. I know what I bring to the table. I know my value and I know my worth better than ever. Better than ever. And yeah, so that is the end of that recording. I just, talking with that friend, she was like, I'm 50 and I'm looking forward to this decade. And I just wanted to tell her, well, it's been a powerful decade for me. And I feel more empowered, more authentic than ever before. I feel stronger in myself, more balanced, more stable within myself. I don't need outward circumstances to make me happy, or I don't need to try to control and manipulate outward circumstances so that I feel at peace. I'm at peace because I know who I am and I know I can ride the waves. Bring it. I can do it. I can do it. I may end up in the water a lot, but I ain't afraid of the water. I'm a water baby, So, so yeah, I guess that's it.